The stars were dying, not by age, but by fire. Whole systems, once filled with life and light, had gone silent. No signals, no survivors, just floating ruins where planets used to be. Cause was always the same, the Dravari swarm. They came, without warning. Black ships shaped like twisted bones. Engines that didn't make sound, but screamed into the minds of those who saw them. They didn't ask questions. They didn't speak. They just arrived and destroyed everything in their path. Over 500 alien worlds were gone. No defense stopped them. Blast! No weapon slowed them. They were like a plague of fire moving across the stars. The galaxy was terrified. Old enemies became allies. Peace treaties were signed in panic. Massive fleets were built in record time. Still, the Dravari tore through them all. The Krell, who ruled 3 sectors with their bioships, were wiped out in days. The Julari, with their gravity warheads, never even got a second shot. The proud Valari Empire fell screaming into darkness. Every race had the same story: fighting, losing, dying. They said the Dravari feared nothing. Then they made a mistake. On the edge of the galaxy, hidden in the cold of Sector 9, was a small human science outpost colony, LX-09. It wasn't a base. It wasn't a military zone. It was quiet, peaceful, the kind of place where nothing happened. The people there were scientists, engineers, and researchers. They were studying ice formations, ancient minerals, and radio signals from deep space. Their only protection was one Earth soldier on duty, Lieutenant Arden. Arden was not like the others. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't peaceful. He was a soldier, broken by past wars. His last squad had died in a deep space ambush. Command gave him this post to rest, a place to hide from the horrors he couldn't forget, a place where he wouldn't be needed. They were wrong. The sky cracked open one cold evening. Red lightning flashed across the white clouds. Then came the ships, Dravari. Vessels, big and silent. They didn't fire at first. They just hovered, watching. Then they struck. Flames covered the snow. Buildings exploded. People ran, screaming into the storm. The Cums were full of panic. "We're under attack," there, inside the labs. Then silence. Arden was on patrol at the far edge of the outpost. He saw the sky glow. He heard the screams, but he was too far away. He ran back as fast as he could, but by the time he arrived, it was too late. Everything was gone. The colony lay in ruins. Fires burned through the snow. Bodies, frozen and shattered, were scattered across the ground. Okay, there were no survivors. Arden stood in the center of it all, his breath fogging in the cold. His hands clenched tight. He had failed again, but something inside him broke, and then hardened. He knelt beside the wreckage of the command tower. Beneath the floor, hidden in a still vault, was something old, something forbidden. Arden knew about it. All soldiers did. It was Earth's last secret from the old Wars of Wrath class battlesuit, banned by every council. Too dangerous. Too deadly. And exactly what he needed. He broke the vault open. Inside was a black exosuit, scarred by age, but still humming with energy. It wasn't a machine, it was a weapon of pure rage, designed to link with its user's mind and turn emotion into firepower. Arden didn't care about the warnings. He strapped in. The suit's AI flickered awake. Wires dug into his spine. Pain lanced through his body. The interface asked one question. Authorization. Arden's voice was cold. Vengeance. The suit locked in place. Red lights lit up across the armor. Systems came online. The snow around him melted from the heat of its core. He stood taller, stronger, no longer just a man, but a weapon. He looked out at the burning remains of the colony. His friends, his people, gone, and above, the Dravari ships began to move away, onto their next target. They didn't know a human had survived. They didn't know what kind of monster they had wakened, and they didn't know that for the first time in their existence, they were now the ones being hunted. Arden stepped into the snow, leaving heavy tracks behind. His voice came through the suit, low and sharp. They'll pay for every scream. The wind howled, the fires cracked, and the wrath of one human began. Arden didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. His mind burned with the faces of the people he couldn't save. Their laughter, their voices, all gone. But something new had taken their place, silence and purpose. For the first time since the war, he felt alive. Not because he wanted to fight, but because he had to. The Dravari hadn't just killed a colony. They had crossed a line no one ever dared to cross. Hurt humans. And that was something the galaxy would learn never to do again. The Wrath-class suit hummed quietly around him. It felt heavy, like wearing the bones of a dead god. But it moved with him. It responded to his thoughts. It had no buttons, no controls, just a direct neural link. The more focused he became, the faster it moved. The more angry he felt, more power it generated. He wasn't sure if the suit was guiding him, or if it was the other way around. The suit's AI, named Vault, spoke softly in his ear, using an old Earth voice. Vitals, stable. Neural sync at 82%. Combat systems, ready? Arden stared at the icy horizon. The Dravari ships had left, but he knew they would be back. That's how they operated: destroy, scan, harvest, move on. He had no fleet, no allies, just himself, the suit, and what was left of the outpost's underground bunker. He needed supplies, power, and information, and he needed a target by morning. Arden had restored enough of the colony's data core to access the last off-world transmission. It was a distress signal sent seconds before the station was hit. The message was short, broken by static. Colony LX09, under attack. Unknown swarm size. They're scanning. They're looking for. Then silence. But the transmission wasn't just broadcast locally. It bounced through 3 old relay satellites, reaching Outpost Preshka, K, a hidden listening post once operated by Earth's military. Arden knew it well. It was one of the places Earth used to test classified weapons, and it was only 2 jumps away. He didn't wait. He dragged a half-burned scout ship from the snow, patched it together with spare parts from the lab wreckage, and loaded the Wrath suit into the cargo bay. He didn't sleep. He didn't stop. He flew straight through dark space, pushing the engines to their limits. Every second, he played the faces of his team in his mind. He remembered their smiles, their curiosity, their trust, and he remembered the fire. Outpost Breshka looked empty when he arrived. The station floated in a debris field, half covered in ice and broken solar panels, but the landing system still responded. That meant something was still alive inside door, at least. Something was still awake. The ship touched down. The airlock hissed open. Arden stepped out, wrapped in the full armor of the Wrath suit. His boots echoed through the metal hallways. The station was dark, cold, and quiet. No voices, no lights, but there were signs of a fight. Scorch marks, broken walls. Something had already been here. Then, in a dark hallway, he found it a Dravari scout beast, dead, cut in half, its glowing red eyes still flickering. That's when Arden knew someone else had fought back, and maybe someone else had survived. He found the command room. The AI core was still working. He linked it to VOLT. The station's logs told him what he needed. The Dravari were searching for something, not just to destroy colonies, but to scan for a signal that came from Earth centuries ago, when that even humans have forgotten. And now, Arden knew something terrible. The swarm wasn't attacking planets for war. They were looking for that signal, and if they found the source, it could mean the end of everything. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Volt spoke sharply. Warning, Dravari ships inbound. 5 minutes to contact. Arden didn't flinch. Qua. He tightened his grip on the old railgun mounted to his suit. The hallway lights turned red. The walls shook. They were coming again. But this time, he wasn't the one caught off guard. This time, he was waiting. He walked to the airlock slowly, calmly. They want something, he said quietly. They'll have to go through me. Outside, the stars lit up with fire. Inside, one human stood in silence, ready, armored, angry, and for the first time in their long, brutal history, the Dravari would learn what it meant to fear, because what they had awakened wasn't just a survivor. It was wrath made flesh. The walls of Outpost Breshka shook with every second that passed. Warning lights flashed red. Ice fell from the ceiling. Outside, 5 Dravari ships moved into position black. Bone-shaped beasts that hovered in the darkness like floating nightmares inside. Lieutenant Arden stood calm. He checked his ammo. The Wrath-class suit adjusted to his pulse. The AI Volt spoke in a low voice. Multiple life forms inbound. Estimated number 35 species. Dravari scout units. Combat level extreme. Arden didn't blink. Good, he muttered. Let them come. He walked through the dark corridors of the outpost, locking doors behind him, forcing the enemy into a single pather trap. He knew this place. He had trained here years ago. Every hallway, every hatch, every blind corner was familiar. The Dravari didn't know that. He placed explosive charges under the floor grates, rerouted power to the blast doors. He wasn't running this time. He was hunting. Then he waited silent. In the dark, the first Dravari creature burst through the outer airlock with a sound like ripping metal. It looked like a twisted wolf made of exposed muscle and black armor. Its jaws snapped as it sniffed the air. Arden didn't move. 3 more followed crawling, growling, eyes glowing red. Volt whispered, enemy breach confirmed. Combat ready. Arden's eyes narrowed. Now, he triggered the charges. Boom. The hallway exploded with fire and smoke. 2 creatures were torn apart instantly. The rest scattered, screaming in a sound that wasn't meant for human ears. Arden stepped into the smoke, slow and steady, the glow from his armor lighting the fire-filled corridor. He raised his railgun, canned fired. The first shot tore through a Dravari beast like paper. The second ripped a hole in the wall behind the creature. The third, he didn't need it. They were already running, the mighty, merciless Dravari, retreating. Arden moved after them, fast, focused. The Wrath suit boosted his speed, his strength, his reflexes. Every strike he made was fatal. Every step he took was destruction. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He was death in motion. Minutes later, the hallways were littered with pieces of broken alien bodies. Acid blood sizzled on the metal floor. Smoke drifted through the air like ghosts. Only one creature remained larger than the others. It stood in the central chamber, waiting for him. Its body was taller than Arden, built like a monster, bladed, arms for eyes, a glowing red core in its chest. It didn't run, it roared. Arden didn't stop. He charged. The 2 clashed with a force that shook the entire station. Metal buckled, sparks flew. The Dravari beast slashed with its claws, or Dunn blocked it with one armored arm, then drove his fist into its jaw with enough force to crack bone. The suit screamed with heat and pressure, but it held. The fight was brutal, fast, violent, but Arden wasn't fighting alone. The suit was fighting with him, predicting, protecting, tacking. The final blow came when Arden lifted the railgun one last time and fired it straight into the creature's chest at close range. The beast exploded into black mist and fire. Silence returned. Volt spoke quietly. Threat neutralized. Arden dropped to one knee, breathing heavy, steam rising from his suit. He stared at the floor, at the blood, at the body's dot, and he spoke one word. Next. He didn't know how many more. Ships were coming. He didn't know how far the Dravari had spread. But one thing was clear now. They could be killed. They could feel fear. And if Arden had done this alone, with just one old suit and the fire in his heart, what would happen if other humans joined him? He had to warn Earth. He had to tell them the truth. The Dravari weren't gods. They bled. He activated the outpost's long-range transmitter and began sending a signal toward Earth. A simple message. I survived. I killed them. They're not invincible. Prepare for war. As the message was sent into the void, Arden stood once more. The fight was just beginning, and now humanity knew. The signal shot across space, piercing through old satellite webs, ancient debris fields, and abandoned war zones. It carried Arden's voice, firm and cold. I survived. I killed them. They're not gods. They bleed. Prepare for war. On Earth, that message changed everything. The high command of the Terran Defense Network had almost given up. 4 months. The Dravari had torn through colonies with no resistance. Humanity had kept silent, hiding its strongest ships, hoping to avoid notice. But now, one man had fought back and won. Within hours, the council gathered in the hidden war bunker below New Geneva. Generals, scientists, and operatives watched Arden's footage from Outpost Breshka. The images of dead Dravari filled the screen. The room went quiet. No one has ever killed them before, whispered Admiral Chen. And he did it, alone. A woman in a black suit leaned forward. No, not alone. Used a Wrath class. The room froze. Those suits had been banned decades ago. They were too dangerous, too unstable. Built to turn grief and rage into raw power. After the War of the Burning Sky, Earth had locked every one of them away, except one. The one Arden now. War. Activate Project Black Phoenix, the Admiral said, and bring the others out of cryo. The Dravari are hunting something. We're done hiding. Stuck in deep space. Arden finished sealing the station. He had left a trap one. The next wave of Dravari would never forget. Plasma charges in the reactor core. The moment they entered the base again, it would become their tomb. He boarded the scout ship, now half frozen and half melted from the last battle. The engine sparked, groaned, but still came alive. He set the course manually toward the nearest Terran relay post, hoping his signal reached Earth in time. But space was not quiet as his ship moved through the dark. Arden saw something strange trail. Dozens of drifting satellites, alien wreckage, scars in space. And among them, something horrifying. A Terran dreadnought, ripped apart. It was the TDS Herald, lost 5 months ago with all hands. But Arden noticed something wrong. Had never broadcast a distress call. Its black box had been wiped clean. The ship had been attacked by something, and the story erased. Arden pulled closer. The hull was torn from the inside. Volt scanned the debris. Signs of Dravari biotech. But something is different. Suddenly, Arden's ship shook violently. The stars shifted. His radar lit up. A massive shadow moved just behind a nearby asteroid. Not a ship, but something alive, organic, massive, like a floating city with tentacles and eyes. A Dravari hive-beast. It had been waiting. Before Arden could react, it launched a pulse wave. The scout ship spun, alarms screaming. The A shouted, warning, Hull breached secondary thrusters, failing brace for impact. Arden crashed into a dead moon. The ship slammed into the ice, metal grinding, lights flickering. Everything went dark. Minutes passed. Silence. Then a groan. Metal shifted. A figure pushed open the shattered cockpit door. Arden climbed out. The Wrath suit, scorched but still alive, he stood on the frozen surface of the moon. Looking up at the sky where the hive beast drifted. "They found me," he muttered. He looked around alone again, stranded, hunted, but his eyes were still cold, his grip steady. They should have killed me the first time. Far above, the Dravari hive beast hovered silently. It had scanned Arden. It had recognized something in him it had never seen before. Emotion, memory, rage, and for the first time in their long, brutal history, the Dravari High Corps had issued a new command: prioritize human elimination. They now understood something terrifying. This human wasn't just dangerous, he was contagious. The stars lit up with fire. The Dravari Reapers, creatures of death and void, began pouring into the galaxy. Massive hive beasts moved like living planets. Planetary defenses crumbled. Its entire solar systems went dark in hours. The galaxy screamed for help. But this time, Earth answered. Human fleets jumped in from hidden warp gates. New Wrath-class soldiers, awakened from cryo-sleep, led the charge. Old Terran warships, forgotten legends, returned from the void. The battle for the galaxy had begun, and at the center of it all was Arden, now fully healed, his body reinforced with the next-generation Wrath suit. Arden stood aboard the TD's Vengeance, a ship built in secret for one purpose: retaliation. Beside him, commanders spoke in hushed tones. Satellite feeds showed enemy movements. Earth had united. No more debates, no more hiding. Arden looked at the data. "They're heading for Earth. We need to cut them off at the rim." A general nodded. "That's suicide. You'll be alone." Was alone before, Arden said. "Didn't stop me then." They couldn't argue with that. Soon, Arden's fleet jumped ahead 5 ships against hundreds. They met the Dravari swarm near the Black Rift, a region no ship had dared enter for centuries. The stars flickered, space cracked, and the battle began. The Terran ships struck first blinding beams, slicing through the dark. Explosions lit the void, but the Reapers were stronger than anything before. They absorbed damage, adapted, evolved, one by one. Arden's ships fell. Only the Vengeance remained, and on the bridge, Arden stood, calm, focused, ready. Volt's voice returned. Enemy approaching. Reaper-class size, planetary, tail, integrity, collapsing. Arden stared at the incoming shadow. It was massive, larger than cities covered in bones, teeth, and living tentacles. It opened its core and roared, all weapons offline, all shields gone, no backup coming. But Arden didn't flinch. He whispered, "You destroyed my world. You burned my people. You killed everything I loved." He gripped the control core. "Now it's your turn." Ordered a manual ram straight into the Reaper center. Suit core override, Arden commanded. Wrath, detonation. Full release. Vault paused. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The ship blasted forward, engines screaming, hull breaking apart. The Reaper fired, but it was too late. Arden's ship crashed straight into its heart. A final word escaped Arden's lips. For Earth, then light, a blast brighter than any sun. The Reaper screamed. Then it was gone. So was Arden ours. Later, across the galaxy, Dravari fleets began failing. Their hives collapsed. Their signals stopped. Something in Arden's final act had broken their connection. Earth scientists confirmed it. His Wrath core had created a neurovirus, its final gift. The Dravari weren't just dying. They were being erased. Years passed. Peace slowly returned. Children, grew up learning the story of one-man Lieutenant Arden, the human who fought alone, who carried his rage into the stars, and who taught the galaxy a lesson: never awaken a human's wrath. A monument was built on Earth's highest peak, his face carved in stone. Below it, only one sentence: they thought we were weak, but they forgot we are human. And in the distance, the stars began to shine again. But this time, they knew humanity watches, and if danger ever returned, so will the wrath. The ice cracked under Arden's feet. The scout ship behind him was broken, its engines buried in snow and fire. Smoke rose into the cold sky. The moon was silent and lifeless. No oxygen, no backup. But Arden didn't stop. The Wrath class suit kept him breathing, kept his heart steady. His armor shifted with every step, adapting to the damage from the crash. Volt spoke in a cold, quiet tone. Location: unknown. Moon is orbiting a Dravari hive beast. No friendly signals detected. Warning: extreme danger. Arden looked up again. The giant hive beast was still there, floating like a god made of bone and muscle, its tentacles stretching across space, its glowing red core pulsing slowly. It hadn't moved since the crash, but Arden knew it was watching him. They're learning, he said. They want to understand what makes us fight. He began moving toward a jagged rock formation near Bushelta. He didn't have much time. He had to build a beacon, send another signal before they cut him off completely. But just as he reached the rocks, his suit froze. Nero, sync disrupted. Volt warned. Foreign signal detected. Attempting override. Arden gritted his teeth. The suit's only protections started to fight against him. Then a voice filled his mind. Not human, not digital, Dr. Ava. It wasn't a language. It was a feeling, images, raw emotion, rage, power, hunger, and something else, fear. The Dravari hive beast was trying to communicate, trying to break him. He dropped to one knee, fists clenched. His mind flooded with memories that weren't. His world's burning, species falling, the Dravari watching without care. And then it showed him Earth blue, beautiful, alone, a target. No, Arden growled. Not again. He focused harder than ever before. The Wrath suit responded. It fought back. The neural sync snapped back into place. The pain vanished. VOLT's voice returned, firm and clear. Signal restored. A hostile link severed. Arden stood up, shaking off the snow and visions. The Dravari had tried to read him, but instead, he had seen them, and he understood something now. They weren't just destroying planets for no reason. They were searching for something. A signal, a memory, a fear locked deep in human DNA. Arden remembered the old story, a buried experiment. A warning never meant to reach the stars. Something was inside humanity that even humans had forgotten, and now the Dravari had felt it. He had to escape. He had to warn Earth. The suit scanned the moon's surface and found a hidden cave beneath the ice. Deep inside, old mining equipment remained left by an extinct alien race. Arden smiled. He could use it. Hours passed. He worked silently, cutting metal, building a transmitter from scrap and Dravari tech. He tore off a scout corpse. Every moment, he knew they were watching. But they didn't attack. They were afraid. They didn't understand how one human had survived the impossible. How one man had turned pain into power, and now they hesitated. That hesitation was their mistake. Arden finished building the beacon. He powered it with the Wrath suit's backup core and set it to burst mode. Volt confirmed. Signal locked. Earth channel open. Ready to transmit. Arden looked up at the stars again. Messages. Simple, he said. Tell them war has begun, and this time, we're not running. He hit the button. The beacon fired a pulse into space bright, fast, unstoppable, and as it vanished into the darkness. And what it found inside was not peace or logic. It found wrath back on Earth. Alarms rang across Deep Space Command. "Sir," a young officer shouted. "New signal detected. It's him. Arden. He's alive." The generals gathered again. "Prepare." "The fleet," Admiral Chen said. "We're done waiting. The Javari want war." She looked at the message. "We'll show them what war really means." The stars above Earth were no longer quiet. Thousands of satellites shifted orbit. Massive warships, once hidden in deep vaults beneath Mars and Europa, rose from the shadows. 100 silent stations powered up their weapons for the first time in decades. Earth had been sleeping. Now, it was awake. The message from Arden had reached every outpost, every fleet, every soldier with a pulse. The Javari had tried to erase humanity with fear, but they failed. They had touched the one thing they should have never awakened: human rage. On the frozen moon, Arden stood near the dying beacon. His body was weak. The suit's power was dropping fast. Within his eyes, there was no fear, just purpose. VOT's voice crackled. "Multiple Javari ships inbound. Arrival in 2 minutes. Recommend retreat." Arden looked at the sky. Too late for retreat. He didn't plan to run. He walked into the mouth of a deep ice cave, one he had scouted earlier. Inside, he had laid traps using old alien tech, parts from his ship, and unstable power cores. If the Javari wanted him, they would have to come down into this frozen tomb. He would bury them in it, above. The sky lit up as 5 sleek Javari dropships descended, each shaped like long black blades. They hovered for a moment, then opened. Dozens of hunters dropped out, snarling, armored, fast. Each one was nearly twice the size of a human, eyes glowing like embers, claws like steel. They moved silently across the ice toward the cave. Inside, Arden crouched behind a rock. His railgun was gone. Hezrath's suit was cracked and flickering, but he still had one weapon left. His mind. The first creature entered. Boom. A charge exploded, throwing ice and bodies into the wall. The cave shook. The Javari fell instantly. The others rushed forward. Arden moved like fire in the darkness, striking from shadows, disappearing again. His blade flashed, cutting clean through the neck of a beast. Another lunged. He dodged, smashed its face with his elbow, dropped a charge, ran. The cave was chaos. Screams echoed, acid blood sprayed across walls. One by one, the hunters fell. But so did the light in Arden's suit. Power levels critical. Vault warned. Shut down in 60 seconds. Arden kept fighting. His last trap was ready, a high-yield core buried under the cave's central chamber. If they all came in, he'd take them down with him. He'd check the sensor. Almost all inside. Vault confirmed. He smiled, bleeding, exhausted. "Then let's finish it." He triggered the core. A blinding light burst through the cave. Outside, the dropships shook, then shattered. The explosion broke through the ice and rock, leaving a massive crater. Silence. Smoke. No movement. Then one figure rose from the fire. Arden, burned, wounded, suit nearly destroyed, but alive. He limped out of the crater, blood on his face. Above, a single Terran recon ship came into view finally, answering his signal. It hovered down, opened its hatch. 2 Marines rushed to him. "You're Arden?" one asked. He nodded slowly. "They said you were dead." "I was," Arden said, "but not anymore." They helped him inside. The hatch closed. Arden looked out at the stars once more. "They'll come for Earth now," he said. "All of them." The Marine looked confused. "Then why do you look so calm?" Arden turned, eyes cold. "Because now Earth is ready. Far away, deep in the Dravari core hive, the High Command watched everything. For the first time in thousands of years, a species had survived direct contact. Not just survived, fought back. One of the leaders, a creature of pure bone and energy, gave a single order: deploy the Reapers. Q begin full purge. And so began the next stage of the war. 1. Man had lit the fire. Now the galaxy would burn.